Immediately, Jesus made the disciples get into the boat and go on ahead of him to the other side while he dismissed the crowd. After he had dismissed them, he went up on a mountainside by himself to pray. When evening came, he was there alone, but the boat was already a considerable distance from the land, buffeted by the waves because the wind was against it. Shortly before dawn, Jesus went out to them walking on the lake. When the disciples saw him walking on the lake, they were terrified. "It's a ghost," they said, and cried out in fear. But Jesus immediately said to them, "Take courage, it is I. Do not be afraid." "Lord, if it's you," Peter replied, "tell me to come to you on the water." "Come," he said. Then Peter got down out of the boat, walked on the water, and came toward Jesus. But when he saw the wind, he was afraid, and beginning to sink, cried out, "Lord, save me." Immediately Jesus reached out his hand and caught him. "You of little faith," he said, "why did you doubt?" And when they climbed into the boat, the wind died down. Let's talk about an arrogant request. Have you ever asked God for something that seemed to be arrogant? "Lord, make me a billionaire. Bless me with my own business. Lord, heal my sick mother. Save me from this." What were the other disciples thinking? What made Peter think he had what it took to step out of the boat? Who did he think he was? Does he think he's better than us? He's just showing off. I hope he fails. How narcissistic. Why not just wait until Jesus got to the boat? Why him and not me? Why not stay where it's most comfortable? Why not just go along to get along? Why didn't Jesus let him drown for thinking he was better than everybody else? We are all guilty of the paralysis of analysis, stuck on what somebody else is going to say if we step out of the boat, worried about how we'll be perceived by those around us, crippled by the fear of failure. We can take three things from this text. Number one, we must recognize his ability. Verse 28 says, "Lord, if it's you." Remember to depend on Jesus. Everybody was hating because they wanted to do what Peter did. They were in a dreadful storm. Trouble will surely come as we journey, but it must not deter us from stepping out. However Jesus made it out there, whether suspending himself above the water or subduing the water beneath his feet, whatever method he chose, he was still in control. However he chooses to get you through this, it's his prerogative. All he bids of us is come. Number two, request his ability. Verse 28 says, "Tell me to come to you on the water." We must make a bold, a stupid request. Watch, Peter did not say, "If it is you, I'll come," suggesting I can do it if you can do it. But he said, "If it is you, bid me to come." Meaning, "Lord, I can only do it if you allow me to." Peter was the only one in the boat who was tired of being without Jesus. So he couldn't wait for Jesus to get to him. He wanted to get to Jesus. He knew that if he could just get to Jesus, Jesus will handle the rest. He chose to rid himself of the safety of the ship. He determined to throw himself into the jaws of death just to get closer to Jesus. And number three, rely on his ability. Verse 29 through 30 said, "Come," he said. Then Peter got out of the boat and came toward Jesus. But when he saw the wind, he was afraid and beginning to sink, cried out, "Lord, save me." Note, it was at the fourth watch that Jesus met them, about 3 in the morning. Oftentimes, Jesus waits until the hour is bleak to make his first move. Those with the greatest faith is also mangled with great fear. Those who say, "Lord, save me," must also say, "Lord, help my unbelief." When our souls are at unbelief, it's an opportunity to hope in God. Please note that Peter was bred a fisherman, meaning he was an avid swimmer. So his coming on the water could have in part relied on his natural ability. So Jesus let him sink to prove to Peter that he can't make it without him. What you're dealing with, the Lord is letting you sink so that you'll know it's not by might nor by power, but by his Spirit, says the Lord. There's a story told about a young girl who's driving in the car with her father. While driving, a huge storm began, and she started to get scared. Several times she asked her dad, "Should I pull over and allow the storm to slack?" To which he responded, "Keep driving." The more she drove, it seemed the worse the storm became. Again she asked, "Daddy, should I pull over now?" Again he responded, "Keep driving, baby." Out of fear and respect, she moved over to the slow lane, threw on her hazards, and turned her music down. But she did not stop driving. A little while later, she noticed the sun peeking through the clouds. She began to become more confident, moved back to the fast lane, and turned her radio back up. Immediately, the sun came up and she began to go back into her groove. Now, her daddy said, "Pull over here, darling." She responded, "Dad, I'm good now. I think I can make it." He said, "Pull over." She did. He ordered her to get out of the car and look behind her. When she looked behind her, she saw countless of vehicles stopped in the rain. Her dad said, "Had you stopped when you wanted to, you would have stopped in the middle of the storm. But since you kept driving, you made it out safely. I wonder if you will keep driving through this storm."